hello there. Hi there. Do you hear me? Okay. No, hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Excellent. Great. Oh, I'm so happy that you're here because your ideas were the best. I think we're not gonna wait
Oh, thank you.
for others to
Yeah,
join.
yeah,
Maybe
sure.
Daniela will join. She said she will try, but we will see. I had an interesting idea to start from,
Mm-hmm.
like every meetup, because I thought since we do it like it's an ongoing thing that we do. The idea is that we keep meeting each other like live as we go on teaching, and maybe so I thought we are talking about like general topics, and I thought we maybe could add some burning subjects. So I suggest to start from 10 minutes of insight. Like the first 10 minutes, we'll just discuss during the last 2 weeks, what happened, anything like so you've got a moment, like something. I can give
Oh,
you.
okay, that's good. It's just like a brainstorming and just say what happened, about our teaching and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Memes,
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I like it.
yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I think it's the best use of our time. So let's dedicate like the beginning for that. I can start with what I found out, or you can start. Do you want to start? Or
Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you want to start, you go ahead.
so I had two things to tell, like the fresh things
Okay.
that happened while my teaching. One thing was maybe it's specific, but it was a very interesting experience. It was rather student's idea, not mine. I have a student.
Mm-hmm.
He is a Russian speaker, but he doesn't live in Russia, so he makes his business in English. So English
Okay.
is easier for him to talk. Of course, Russian is his native language. So often for explanation he's intermediate, so for explanations I often you slide, you don't want it, but you slide into kind of explaining in Russian, and it sometimes, or he often says, oh, I can't say it in Hebrew, and he starts with his Russian. It's his
Okay.
mother tongue, he's very fluent, and then he started it, I think. Yeah. He said, I'll better explain in English because it's not that easy for me. And that was like wonderful, because then he's kind of thinking twice if he's gonna, it is still an effort for him. So yeah, so it makes him, he doesn't divert that easily into explaining in another language, not his target language, which is Hebrew. So we ended up talking much more Hebrew than we used to, which was
Oh,
like, yeah,
that's interesting.
because he thinks like, oh, this is difficult and that is difficult, also difficult, a bit like, English is less difficult but still an effort, so okay, I'll do it in Hebrew. That was something.
Wow. But hey, do you speak Russian?
Yeah, sure, sure.
You live in Russia, right?
Yeah, I was born in Russia, and I made my.
Okay.
I came to Israel. I studied Hebrew in school, but you know what it is like to study something in school. I
Oh,
studied
okay.
school, and then
Okay,
I
so
came
that's
to
interesting.
Israel. I was 17. I was 17, and then yeah.
Okay.
But it's my, it's like C2
Oh, that's
language or something like that. But it's my second.
yes.
It's just.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. And it was, if like that was helping your student, that is a great idea to go for.
Yeah, yeah. If you have like array of languages for you between you and your student, you can go for and explain in a weaker one and not in the mother tongue. It works well. Then
That's good.
yeah, that was kind of insight. And then another thing, but go on. You tell something about what happened to you in these 2 weeks, and then I'll tell the second idea. Internet. Uh,
Can you hear me?
Now it works. Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. So actually, something that I wrote on Facebook already, and I see that actually you replied to that post that I made on Facebook about this Chinese student
Uh-huh.
that is actually trying to get better in English, and so she contacted me because I mean I teach English too,
Yeah.
but the reason why she wanted me to kind of help her out with the English, it was, hi Susana.
Hello.
Oh,
Hi
hi,
there.
people.
Hello. Come and join us. Okay, keep going then later. I'll
Okay,
explain to
so-
them what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, we're just talking about like what happened in the last few weeks. It was I was talking about this so this student that contacted me, she's from China, and she wanted to get better at English. So since I teach English too, she contacted me because she's starting a new job in China and her boss is Italian. So she kind of wanted me to teach English because she wanted to get used to my accent. That's what she told me, but also because she wanted kind of got more like closer to my culture, to the Italian culture. I mean, when I read that, I was okay. I can help you with that. I love sharing my culture. But then she wrote me and she was like, I want to know like what to talk about with my boss so that I can, be friend with him, and how should I behave. So that's what she told me. At first, I was like, yes, I'm good at teaching my language, at teaching my culture. But at the same thing, it kind of like scared me, the fact of telling somebody how to behave. Because like that is kind of more social skills, and it doesn't always fit with, teaching like the languages skills. So I was kind of worried about that, but I've got a lot of responses and they were very useful. And they told me that Chinese students really want to have rules. So they want to know what to do because they follow rules. I mean, I'm Italian. It doesn't really work like that. If there's a feeling in people, you go for that, and you don't care about rules, or actually idea rules, because it would be hard for me to tell her rules, to tell her what to do, what to tell to her boss. But at the same time, I think, well, I'm just going to start off, she's going to get to know me, which is going to be okay because I'm Italian. So she's kind of going to get closer to my culture, and we'll see how it goes. We're going to start a conversation about that, and we'll see. I'm going to have this lesson with her like tomorrow, and I hope that it will be fine. I mean, I'm really actually excited about that because I've never had a conversation like this with a student. It's kind of my first time.
Good luck. You can do it.
Stefano, maybe one suggestion from me in this case. Tell her in general some kind of basic rules, like what types of bosses do you have in Italy, and what can she expect more or less. And tell her actually to take conclusions in this case, and tell her to monitor the reaction of the boss, of that Italian boss, when she speaks and so on, and that is actually going to lead her into the point.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do for sure. Thanks for your advice. I'm also going to ask where her boss is from, because in Italy, like for example, from south to north, there's...
this is also very important because on the north they are pretty cold, so that was like a culture shock for me for a little bit, because I was always thinking like Italy, oh wow, what warm people, but I guess I used to speak to the people from the south of Italy too much.
Yes, in the north is kind of, I'm from the south, but I live in the north, and there are a lot of differences. So it's going to be interesting anyway. Something new. It's also very, stimulating, inspirational. So I like
it's always an experience. A new experience is always good. And it's not very unique that it happens. I had a very strange case. Was a businessman. She booked a lesson, but she said, I am not interested in the language. I am working with Israeli clients. I want you to tell me about like how Israelis, how business conversation goes and what are the cultural standards. She just from the beginning she said, it's all about culture, just tell me what to expect. And it was like, wow, it was so interesting actually.
Yes. It's in, but also when explaining culture, for example, I've been an exchange student in the USA. So like if I had to explain the American culture, I would be better at doing that than explaining my native culture. Because I lived something different. Instead, in Italy, I've been living here forever. So like since I was born. So explaining my own culture is way harder than explaining a culture that you had experienced.
Yes, it's like breathing. That's why when you ask me that, oh, how come you're born in Russia? For me, it feels often, very often. I feel like I told Martina once that I feel a fake. Like, well, I came to Israel when I was 17 years old. Like, I do have an accent. It's after the threshold when you have an accent. I am fully proficient, but you know, I am like when I write, I am a native speaker. When I speak, yes, but I am good at explaining, and I know that I'm better at explaining than the natives that were born in Israel, because I do remember the difficulties, and I have this double vision. I have the vision from outside, and also I'm inside, so it helps me tremendously. But again, sometimes it feels like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay, and Susana, what happened to you in these 2 weeks? Or if you want to keep thinking, I had another one thing to share that I found out during these two weeks. And in the meanwhile, you already have an idea something an insight moment, something you realized, some new technique you tried with your student that worked, something like this. Anything?
Well, yes, I also have some kind of mixture. So sometimes I have students like you two guys who want mostly about the culture or something like this, or about business purpose, in the sense like how to behave, and the only only once I had the opportunity to act like I were an HR manager.
Nice.
So I asked some questions, and then I gave feedback and so on. But then came up like a true teacher, like where the mistakes were, and what did he or she needed to do, and something like this.
You practiced for the work interview. That was a work interview, and you acted like the HR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was actually a very, very interesting part, you know.
Definitely.
That's good. That's interesting.
Okay.
I will not be able to do that.
And another thing I really wanted to share with you guys, I have a student. She comes back to me and she says, oh, I am after, how many weeks? Maybe 4 weeks, I think. No, 2 weeks of Middlbury School. And she said it as if I was supposed to know what Middlbury School is. Have you heard about Middlbury School in the US?
I'll show you. What it is? Is it like a college?
It is a college. But
right, so I'm there.
You know that? It is something amazing, people. I'll show you. I'll share screen again, and I'll show you this site. But again, before I do it, I'll tell you what the student. This is the 10 minutes of inspiration. Okay, this is their site of this Middlebury School, and I'll send you the links if you want to.
Okay.
They have a program for learning languages, different languages, including Hebrew in my case. Also Italian. Let's open Italian if you want to. The programs are kind of different for every language, but the idea is that the students come for, depends, from 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, maybe 2, 3, 5, depends on the language, for a certain amount of weeks, and they take a language pledge. So they swear, solemnly swear, that they're gonna speak only the target language during all this time. So they do have lessons in the morning, and then they have activities and games and everything, but they swear to speak like 24/7 language immersion, speak only this language. I haven't opened the Italian, we can open it now.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. And it may
impressive.
Yeah, it may sound like, oh, it's like, no, it's not real learning. I may have thought so. If that's for Italian, I have to really pay more attention to what to the program. I have this. I am not prepared. I know, because I looked at Hebrew before, and there they write how long the program is and stuff, and curriculum activities. The price of this school is unbelievably high. It costs like 6 weeks here. Do you see it? Like, But they do have scholarships, and my student, she had a scholarship. So I don't know. She didn't tell exactly how much of this price they covered, but they covered part of this price. But it is worth it. And maybe 2 years ago I would be kind of hesitating and say, oh, is it for real? Is it true? Does it help? Now I know it helps. I had a very similar experience. I was in a kind of summer camp. It was actually in winter for 3 days of this for Esperanto. I was learning Esperanto. It was like a camp for 3 days. Hi guys. Now we all speak only Esperanto, only. And if you you break a rule if you don't. And then the effect of it is really incredible, because I'm not a big fan of real immersion, like when you go to the country and then you have to look for people to talk to, and then you have many grown-up problems like paperwork and stuff. You're in a grown-up world. This type of immersion is different. You're in a very protected environment. Everyone is struggling, kind of. And maybe again 2 years ago I would have thought that, oh, listening to other students' mistakes, it doesn't help. It's okay. It's fine, because then you force yourself to speak, and really, like, after such an experience, you go out and you feel like you can really use the language. And she came back. She knew a lot of the words, but she was struggling how to put them together. After this experience, she's fluent. She just is fluent. It's amazing.
Now, 4 weeks.
She stayed there for 4 weeks. She had a very good vocabulary before. She is not a beginner. She was an intermediate. But now she's a fluent intermediate. It really forces you to use your language and to live the language. So if you have rich students, businessmen, you can recommend this school. Or let's make, I am thinking about making my own, because it is such a good idea.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think maybe it would work better for like an intermediate student, or like, because like if you are like a beginner, you're not going to be able to talk. So, yes. I mean, I always believe that, for example, I mean, if you visit a country for, I don't know, a year, like my level of English was pretty good when I left Italy, and then I came back and I was fluent. Like I had a lot of friends that they were beginners in English, and when they came back, they could have understood everything that people were saying, but their speaking skills were still kind of, like they came back as intermediate from beginner. But if you go there as an intermediate, you come back as a really advanced student. So it's that's the thing. I agree.
That's what I asked my student who came back, like, were they beginners? And she says yes, they do accept beginners, which would be, she said, it is a nightmare for beginners, absolute nightmare. So but they do accept. And this school, it's not a new idea. This school exists for 100 years, and the Hebrew program there exists for 10 years. So how come we never heard about it? It's amazing.
That's interesting. Yeah. Interesting thing. Yep.
Okay, well, we can now, I think, we go to our kind of main topic of the discussion, and it was, and where's that? No, here, a good teacher, and here the topics that we have. Okay, so, and let's just shoot it. What do you think about a good teacher? What is a good teacher?
Good teacher.
Good teacher.
Well, so when you told me the topic, I'm going to start, if that's okay. When you told me the topic, we were talking about that, and I thought that is the best topic we're going to discuss. It's like defining yourself as a good teacher, I guess it's almost impossible. Not because you're not a good teacher yourself, but because you've got a lot of experiences with a lot of different students. And your method might work for someone, for somebody else it cannot work, and you have to adjust your method to the student's needs. So sometimes I was just so sure of my method that I was applying that to everybody. Then I realized, hey, for you it doesn't work. I have to change. I need to work. I just need to come up with different ideas. So for example, I've got this student from Chile. She's a girl, and she's my age, I guess. She's 20 or something, and she's so good at languages. Like any language she learns, she's just good at it. Her first language is Spanish, so it's an added value anyway. And she literally was so happy with my teaching that I was very excited about that, because every single time she reviewed my lessons, she always left a very good review. But I'm not talking a good review like, hey, that was a good lesson, I'm going to book more lessons with him. But she wrote like lines and lines of compliments, and that was so heartwarming for me. Some other students, like I've got this French student, and I had this student for a long time. He's good, he's smart, but he doesn't want to study. So he kind of struggles with that. So, like just to open a book and learn what I told him, like the rules, the grammar rules. And he's a total beginner. So he kind of like started, with having some troubles because I was, teaching him. And he was like, oh yeah, sure, this is so easy, I understood that. But then the next time he would have forgotten all of it.
How often is he taking lessons?
1 lesson a week. So that's not exactly. So I told him, actually, I think that's better if we have like 2 lessons a week. We're talking about, but just because like he would apply and just stay focused in class like a lot, but you need to review what you've done. Otherwise, when I'm going to explain the next rule, you're not going to understand that because you don't know the previous one. So and he was very interested in grammar. It was not about like I just want conversation. He was very interested in grammar. So I thought at some point, hey, we need to stop. We need to review what we were doing. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to actually have conversations. It was kind of yes, I don't know, we'll try. Now it's getting better because we're reviewing everything. But then he told me something that made me kind of, I'm not saying mad, but so it was like, I've been taking Spanish lessons with a teacher for 2 weeks, for 2 months, and we've been having lessons for like a year. And now my Spanish is at the same level of my tongue. And at that point, I was like, oh wow, what did I get wrong? Is it my fault? Is it your fault? And then he told me that he was taking lessons with this Spanish teacher for like 2 times a week. And since he was on holiday, he was just studying Spanish so hard. And so I realized, oh, is it my method wrong? Am I doing something wrong? Or is it because of you didn't very, focus on the language? So now I'm asking you guys, if we realize that something is not working, like what should we do to improve ourselves? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, first of all, we should develop ourselves, maybe to take also some kind of trainings or something like this, and then try to implement this into our work, and we should try to have some empathy, to see what is the reaction of the student, because I will also give you some kind of example with that guy from Finland who is too serious. And I remember that actually the first, I would say, several classes were very hard because he actually wanted only to find me when I was online to book instant tutoring. So somehow I found a way to motivate him to book some kind of regular classes. So you should find a word how to motivate your student, and also with your body language, your facial expression, and so on. So you should persuade him or her practically, And then I remember also our lessons were a little bit hard to do because I was focusing on the point, what is important for the language, some kind of phrases, also writing and so on. And that went wrong, and finally he told me what did he want. He said, I want the grammar. So I said, okay, that's fine. So I started to mix my methods. So a little bit of conversation, yes, but then lots of grammar, and that actually works. And now, once he knows more or less pretty good the grammar, I noticed this, so I try to push him into the conversation little by little. So do it step by step. first check, you know, just like the doctor. The doctor also does the diagnosis and talks a lot and then goes for it, you know. So,
yeah, I do feel like a doctor often. I would do also, of course, I would think about the student a lot between the lessons. I do think. If I think, because naturally I'm not I don't come up with conclusions quickly. I take like at least 24 hours. I'm processing things, and that's about me. So I would think about what goes wrong and how can I make it better, and what is the learning style of the student. And at a certain point, when I am close to making up my mind, I would just talk to the student and ask, what do you think? Are we making a good progress? Are you happy with your progress? And if not, what would you suggest we do? What do you like as Susana said, like, just, you know, ask the student. It's interesting, even, but I would advise to be kind of smart and to do it at the stage when you more or less know where you want to lead the student. Yes, but because not every learner knows how to learn. Again, if for me, I'm registered as a professional teacher, and which naturally brings to me students of a certain type. Yes, for informal, often. Now we see you, Susana. You turned on the light. Good. Hello again.
Actually, it's not about light. It's just I turned Google and stuff like that. So once I do it, then it becomes a little bit lighter.
Cool.
You know. And if I leave it only on Zoom, and when we are talking, then it becomes dark for some reason. Okay. I don't understand.
Most important that we see your face, and that's great. And so, where was I? Yes. What was I saying?
We were talking about like asking.
Yeah, about the questions, if he's happy or not, what would he or she suggest, and so on. So
the learners that they actually maybe do not know how to learn. Maybe have more experience. We've seen more learners and more learning styles. So first you think, and then ask the student, and then you can choose like how to incorporate what the student says into what you think. Again, professional teachers, they are more. Since I remember the transition for community tutor into a professional teacher, and gradually I see that I'm more babysitting students. I have more students who are beginners and for whom it's maybe the first language, or they don't know how to learn. The learners who are independent learners, they do not go for italki teachers to learn the basics. That's it. They go for conversation.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. And I have also some question. Have you ever had, for example, the student that is a child of the student of yours that you previously taught?
No.
No, and how did you feel about it? No, never. I did.
No.
I had once, and I gave only 2 classes. And I remember the first time I needed to do this, I was happy, yes, because of that opportunity to teach that kid. But at the same time, I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to do this? Like,
why?
Like,
because
like
his
the
parent.
The parent mostly, yeah, because if I result like bad teacher who didn't teach well, and what will happen, and what are his what did he expect? I mean, the parent and so on. And I was like this all the time, worried, and I was thinking, and I remember that parent actually wrote me in the chat box like, "Are you there?" That was like 5 minutes before the teaching, and I said to myself, "Okay, you have to break the ice." So I said, "Okay, yes, I am here." And well, I must say that when I saw the kid also that was too serious also, I was like, oh my gosh. So I also tried to teach him, but you know, he didn't want it too much. So what I started also is to act like a clown, and I asked him in our native language. So what do you like? What do you don't like? What you don't like, and so on. And that actually worked. So I also made some joke, and in the end, yes, we made it. And yeah, thank God he approved. That's
Well, so you said that you were afraid of being kind of a bad teacher, talking about a good teacher, a bad teacher. What exactly were you anxious about? A bad teacher, what?
Well, I was anxious about that, if I'm going to give enough material, if I'm going to explain to the 13 years old quite good, especially because he wanted everything else except teaching English, you know, and if the approach is going to be quite good or not.
We never know that. I mean, it's kind of
yes, but if we add on that the time that kind of person who likes to overpass the expectations, so that's also one of the reasons more when I felt like that. But thank God everything passed well, so the kid was more than satisfied, and he passed that exam.
That's good.
Good. When we have exams is something that I don't have much experience with. It is preparing students for exams, but it may be a very, very clear, you know, no, I mean, mark that, you know, if you pass or you not pass. Do you prepare the student well or not? Lucky that I don't do it.
Yeah, that is challenging.
Yeah.
Actually. Okay. So, could we maybe probably just, you know, go ahead and just say, what is a good teacher for you? Like, good teacher is 1, 2, 3, 4. What's that?
Well, I would say somebody who is able to switch the method styles, you know, from students to students, and to feel like when the teacher needs to keep with the standard styles that he uses, and when he needs to, or she needs to change it, and how, you know, because not all people are the same. And if you, for example, have a multicultural group, I think you should be like the more neutral you can, you know, to use some kind of I would say standard examples, like I am writing something, I am buying something, and so on, not to be, you know, too personal. And also we always must be very, very positive, and like I said, creative also, to use internet like resource and something like that. And that would be more than welcome to avoid some kind of political or religious topic, especially if we are in the multicultural group. So somebody might be offended or something like this.
Also, I think it's also about to be empathetic with the student. I mean, not just understand like his or her needs, like speaking of the language, but also understand the person itself. So what she or his like, you know, it's just about being empathetic and understand where the student is struggling, because often, you know, it's also, for example, if a person is not very able to have conversation with people, it might not be just because of her or his language skills, but it might be also because of the person itself. Maybe she's, the student is just shy and it doesn't want to to talk to people. And so a good teacher is also that person. It's going to break the ice, that is going to make that student feel less shy and, more just extroverted and just more, just happy with what he's doing. And so I guess that a good teacher should be able to, just bring the student closer. So because I don't really believe in the friends thing between the student, between the teacher and the student, because I always believe that has to be kind of still kind of, I'm not saying a wall, because we should be able to break that wall, but we should be able to work together in a good way. And so that I'm going to understand everything about the student, and the student is going to understand about things about me. And that is a good way to kind of bring the student closer to the teacher. And so just be empathetic, and it's going to be very good for the student itself.
Yeah, definitely. Very, very good point. Yeah, which makes teaching a very personal issue for me. But yes, I'm really trying to be there, to reach out. I agree with you, definitely. Yeah, because that's what, yes, because that's what, as teachers, we really need it. It's a professional skill. Yeah, yeah. I would add something like, to learn, to study. I think to be a good teacher, we must be students forever. The best would be to learn another language. But when we are learning a new language, we suddenly realize, I had periods when I stopped learning and then I renewed my learning, and then suddenly, yes, we have to have this feeling fresh of how the student struggles with this language, how difficult it is to remember a word. Then we would never think, oh, the student is stupid. Never, ever. Student is never stupid. They are struggling, and we have to struggle ourselves in order to understand how difficult it is for the student, I think.
Yeah.
I had students that, they were not able to do an exercise, and they say, oh, right, but I knew that. I'm so stupid. When they say that, it just feels so devastated. No, you're not, because you feel, hurt when they say something like that, because it's did I make him feel like that?
Definitely. And it's for us, it is a sign that this student that's not the best approach. I know for sure that if he or she are saying, oh, I'm stupid, that's not the set of mind that they have to have that helps learning, that enables good learning. We have to be happy at being able to do something. It's like the glass is half full. For language learning, it's critical to feel like that. Otherwise, we just lose the motivation. And motivation in learning languages is very, very crucial, because you can't learn a language in 3 months. Yes, actually, you can, you can to a certain level, but you have to keep going for years. And to keep the motivation for years, we have to enjoy this learning. And for enjoying this learning, we have to concentrate on the glass is half full, never half empty. Then we would just not, just endless suffering. Why? And I keep telling it to the students, but
not easy. For example, still bringing back into the story my French student, because I've got different students. They're always they're all happy and satisfied, but the French student is the most challenging one, and I love him for that, because he's challenging. I love challenging. And sometimes I am aggressive, but aggressive in a good way. When he gets frustrated, and when you're learning a language, you get frustrated a lot. So I say, I'm just aggressive. I say, hey, stop, don't be frustrated. You're so good at this. I'm sure that you're going to get at a good level. It's just about doing this and doing that. Come on, don't let you down. You can do it. It's about that. And he noticed that I'm really into that, and he starts smiling again, and we're going to keep working. And that's what a teachers should do, because we need to care about our students.
Actually, it's rather coaching, you know. It's a separate profession, coaching. Some people just do coaching, and they take more money for that, by the way. Even coaching for languages they don't know. They just, you know, monitor the progress and give encouragement and teach people how to learn. Yeah, I think if we do it as teachers, it has, so we're great. Yeah, we're good teachers if we do that. We can, you know, we can easily not do it. Yeah, and just go by the book, but we don't. Yeah, so we're great.
And we are also great teachers if we are able to also involve our students in the topic that we want to teach them. So if we want to teach them the grammar, we must use some kind of sentences that can be used in the common life, you know, so we must involve them somehow so they never forget.
Yeah, as you said, like a clown. Yes, and they will remember it. Yeah. If it's something like very shocking that the teacher does something that, yes, I will remember it. Yeah, definitely. I have another point, an interesting point for a good teacher. I think as good teachers, we have to maintain the feeling of surprise and awe even at this particular student, you know, pronouncing the new words and learning the new language, because it is a miracle, you know. He was not born to this culture. He was not speaking this language. It's like, you know, it's like the first steps of the baby going. It's like, wow, you made it, you said it. It's amazing. And sometimes it is difficult, like emotionally, because we don't have one student, we have many students, and like, to be surprised at the, you know, I don't know for which time, maybe for 115th time at the another student pronouncing the same word correctly. But yes we do, and we need to, because it keeps us going, and it is very, they deserve it. I think
they do.
Yeah, something like that. Well, what else do we have here? That's Stefano's question. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Stefano, yes, that's correct.
Good. Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you. Do we need to reconnect, or because I got the less than a minute message?
It will kick us out, and then we will just, you know,
click on
it, and we will reconnect. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then I'll edit this part out so no one will notice. Yeah, and we'll kind of repeat the last words of what we said. Yeah. Or should we just sit and wait until it kicks us out?
No, I don't think so.
So, Stefano's question was, when we were writing, it was, how can we tell that a student is satisfied? And I love this question. How do we know?
Well, very simple. If he's or she is always like smiled and always willing to talk, you know, during the lessons. Plus, if you notice some kind of progresses during the class or two, you know, the next class or two, then it's more than obvious that that student is satisfied. And also we can notice that if that person recommends you to his friends or family or something like that. Like I said, even this kind of recommendation, so if that student recommend you to your friend or something like this, then it's more than obvious that that student is satisfied. You know, because just like, for example, in my case, thanks to this Croatian student, Ante, I got even 3 students more. I mean, first that was his son. Yeah, okay, that was 2 classes, but you know, very, very precious. And then 2 students are his friends. Both are from here, so
yeah. And actually, if a student is happy, he will keep coming back. He will book the next lesson.
Of course.
Yeah, that's also a good point, and that's why I always say they are not obligated to write the feedback. Of course, it's good for us teachers, but it's not like a must. you know. So, but if they always want to speak just with you, you know, it's super easy to check if they have more classes with other teachers.
Yes, this is easy. So I did it maybe twice or thrice, and now I don't want to see it. I really don't. Yeah. So it's a small world, and I don't want to know that they took classes with other teachers. Okay.
Right. Oh, well, that happened to me actually. There was this student, and he was from China, and it was actually at a good level. We were working very good together, and we had like 100 and like 30 classes or something like that. And like I've been teaching on italki for almost 2 years now, and he actually was one of my first students. And then at some point he finished like his package, and I didn't see him anymore. And he actually came to live in Milan, where I live. So we actually met in person. Wow. So we met one time, we hung out. It was beautiful because I was meeting my student. It was so satisfying. And we were talking in Italian. His Italian was a little broke because he was kind of a beginner. It was Chinese. It was kind of a struggle for him. But I was so happy about that. And then it just faded away. I was like, where is him? And then I went on his profile and I saw that he was actually having classes with another Italian teacher, and I felt so frustrated. And I noticed that this teacher...
Cheaper. Yeah.
It was actually, yes, she was cheaper, but she also spoke Chinese. So maybe he wanted something more about the culture. I don't know anything about the Chinese culture, honestly. So he wanted something more about that, and he wanted somebody that, you know, was able to speak. But still, it was just bad because I just felt he was one of my first students. It was so sad. You know, I'm getting other students, but at the same time, you know, you're losing one of your, more loyal students.
Yeah, it makes you think, am I good enough? Am I doing the right thing? Right. Maybe they were bored. Sometimes students get bored because it's like us, it's the same teacher, and they get used to your personality, and the new teacher may be more like surprising. And sometimes for some students, again, since like relatively to the Hebrew price, I charge high price. Like it's $25. It is high, and I know it. I need it kind of, it's for survival, but again, but you know, but when there is no need for, like in my services, because I am babysitting, I can explain pretty much everything. But for students who are conversational and for whom it's kind of expensive, and if I know that, I do say, maybe if you want to save up, you can kind of, you know, one lesson with me, one lesson with someone cheap. I'd better suggest it myself, because if they do it, I would feel kind of bad. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's also about the price, I guess, because like when you get to a certain level and you feel like any teacher will be good for you because maybe you just need conversation, you go for the cheaper price. I mean, like I'm a community tutor and I'm charging $12 an hour, which is pretty high, honestly, for a community tutor of Italian. And I'm saying that like Italian tutors, they're charging for, you know, like community tutors. I'm talking about them. Like an average of $6 an hour, which is just like, it's so low.
Many community tutors for Italian?
Yeah, there are like 130 or something like that. And they're charging like between 6 and 10. So 12 is kind of high. There are some like some teachers who are charging like 15, but 15 is like maximum. I'm just like, we should value ourselves more because we're teachers. We're community tutors. I know that. But 6 is very low.
It is very, very low. It's, you can't, I don't know about but the languages I took lessons for, it's extremely low. Yeah, I wonder why is that? Is the living, what's the minimal wage in Italy currently? Sorry for the off-topic question.
The minimum for this is $4, you know, for community tutors, and on the other hand, for professional teachers, the minimum is $8.
Okay. Well, what language do you teach? I don't remember that.
Well, Serbian, Bosnian, Croatian, and now Montenegrin, English, Spanish, and I started also with Italian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I also learned a little bit dialect from Naples. I will learn the dialect from Sicily, and I already know some from Rome.
Cool.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that.
Don't start talking Italian, I won't understand you.
No, we won't. We won't, I promise.
Well, that's okay, Stefano, because I remember once I spoke to Alisa here in Russian for a little bit.
Yeah, it was no one came. We were two of us. Yeah, so we did. We could like this also meetup, also language exchange. Why not? Actually,
of course, why not? We should make that.
I feel that I with this Hebrew, I am lucky because like the price of the Israeli Hebrew teachers are more or less connected to Israeli prices, and Israeli prices are like the minimal, like the life cost is high, so that's why like that's the average. No one is taking less than 15, I think, out of the 30 teachers that are there, including community tutors and professional tutors. So I really don't have the competition that you guys have. So yeah.
I mean, Italian competition, I'm not saying that it's like the English one, but we've got like more than 250 teachers, so it's kind of a lot. But also, sometimes it's just about the competition, and the living costs in Italy is not very high. So, but as long as I get students, I'm good with the price that I have now. For example, it's out of the blue, but I was trying to, I'm thinking about learning Norwegian because I really like Norway and that kind of culture. We're like 10 teachers and they were charging $30. I was like, oh wow, that's very expensive. It's about the competition. It's about the competition.
Yeah.
If you got no competition, you can kind of got like monopoly or something. And it's not very good for the student, but that's how it is. It's money.
And it's kind of damping when there are more teachers, and there's someone who does the damping, who gives like, okay, I'll give lower price, and then students will, I'll have students, and
And well, Stefano, tell me, when you started to teach on italki for the first time, which price did you put as a community tutor? Was it like 4?
No, it wasn't. I was like, I'm not gonna teach for an hour like to a student for $4. I'm not going to do that. It was $8. Yeah, because I started when there was like still the ITC, so it was $8. And I moved it up after 6 months to 10, and now to 12. But for example, I've got still like old students, and I still keep like the lower price for them. But anyway, most of my students I charge the actual price, and I just moved it up like a year or something like that.
Yeah, I also did something like that. Like old students, I kept with the old price. But again, life changes. Students leave you, and then new comes for the new price. I also started from 10. I started from 10 as a community tutor, and then I think I was professional, and then I jumped to 15. I think straight ahead, and then it was 18, 20. 22, and then 22 was left for the tutoring, and then it was 25 for the course, because it was at the point when I just made this course, and I really invested lots of time and effort into this course and stuff.
Right.
Okay, it must be.
How long have you been teaching on italki?
So I think like the ITC also.
I've been there for almost 4 years. In December, I'm going to celebrate the 4th year.
That's good.
It's longer than.
What about you, Lisa? I didn't get that.
I don't remember. I think it's 3 years. As far as
3 years.
I think about 3 years. I started out with ITC. I can go check. I'll check it later. I think it's about 3 years. Yeah.
It's going to be for me it's going to be in January, 2 years, but just because I had to be 18 to teach on italki. So it's like, I loved italki. I wanted to be a teacher, but then I realized, oh no, I need to be 18. So I turned 18 in December, and in January I applied as a teacher. So it's the longest that I could have been on italki.
That's such a cool story. Are you sure that others wait, that you can kind of lie and say you're 18 when you're 17 and a half, and no one is going to check it? So.
Yeah, maybe they're not going to check, but it was kind of I don't know. I'm just going to wait, Yeah.
Also, no, I'm trying to be very honest with italki. Yeah. Stuff like that. Okay, now the last question, Stefano's question, last one. I loved it, and then we'll kind of wrap it up and go to technical stuff, organizational stuff. How can we know that we are getting better? Yes, Stefano asked that in writing on Facebook. Wow. How do we know? Wow, that's your question. Come on. No.
I'm not gonna answer that.
Okay, Suzana, you are the bravest. Go for it.
Well, also it is simple. If you are able to actually learn, I would say more or less fast, and to involve it in your teaching. And if these two things matches, so if you were quite good in learning and you were very successful in doing all of these creative things, and all of this made a big result, then we know that we are getting better in teaching. Also, additionally, is like if you are able to share your knowledge about that with other new teachers.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I would say like if we look at the student like at the mirror, yeah, if we see a progress at that side of the mirror, then we are getting better. And as we said at the beginning, think again, rethink, always. We do have our ways and we're getting used to our ways.
Yes, but Alisa, that's actually the answer on the question if we are good teachers or not, you know, what you're saying. But I was telling you about this, how can we know that we've gotten better at teaching?
Just to look at the student.
Yes.
Yeah.
For example, like you said, Alisa, something that actually was very interesting about like that in order to be good teachers, we have to be students ourselves. And so, for example, when I started teaching, I was just like, well, I just graduated from high school that focused on literary studies, liberal arts, and a lot of Italian, a lot of grammar, a lot of literature. So I'm going to be good at teaching. But then I realized that the approach that you have to have with the student that is learning the language from another perspective, so from a foreigner perspective, is totally different. So my first class was a mess. And I was like, oh, this is very hard. So I was like, I went on Amazon, I bought a book, like an Italian book for foreigners. I opened it and there were so many things that I didn't know about because there are those things that you don't learn in school because they're just native for you. You just are born with them and you don't realize them. And I studied very hard. It's about studying. And I realized, now I know how to answer the 90% of questions. There are still some questions, that I don't know, and I have to check them on the web because we're not perfect. We don't know anything. Studying helped me a lot. And I'm like, I need to study to get better. Studying.
But Stefano, can I say something? Instead of also buying this book, you were able also to check it out if that works with somebody who would like some kind of language exchange, So, for example, you're Italian for his or her Spanish or something like this, or English, never mind, So that's how you would be able to see if that works. And you would notice that there are many mistakes because that person would actually tell you his or her feedback, like what was wrong. Probably that would be, oh my gosh, too much literacy, oh my gosh, too much grammar, so take it easy, tell me how to say this and this and this, let's just talk or something like this. That actually happened to me when I was actually a teenager. That's actually how my career also as a teacher started, because I had some kind of language exchange with Latin American folks. My English for their Spanish, and sometimes from time to time they would ask me to teach them Serbian.
Yeah. Also, my best experiences are like helping neighbors, the newcomers who came to Israel, and I've been many years in Israel, so helping them out and teaching them. It was my first experience teaching Hebrew, yes. But actually, what you say is very, we learned by experience, actually.
Yeah.
Because students, it is a repetitive work, our work. After 2 years of teaching, we all know that, at the beginning, everything was very new. And yes, he didn't tell us. How shall I explain this? I came up with such a good idea how to explain that. And then after 2 years, it's this old mistake again. This is this old question again. Of course I know how to answer it. Of course I know how to explain that.
I still remember when I was shaking during my first class, and I was like, "Hi, I don't know what to do," because it's a bad experience. I was shaking it, and now just like when a new student comes, you're so ready and so pumped to share your beautiful language, your beautiful culture. But I still remember the first time. What do we do? I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's exactly how did I feel as well for the first time when I came here to Italki. And I remember also once I came somehow to the 5th lesson, I requested also constantly for instant tutoring, just to come more, just to impress my students, and then everything is much easier. But I would say that I was struggling as a community tutor in the sense that, of course, since I was a community, nobody took me like that serious. They would think that I couldn't teach grammar or something like this. And as I'm a professional teacher now, everything is totally different.
Oh, I interrupted. Last point, which I forgot actually, about being a good teacher. We are language teachers. Good teacher is a teacher who loves his/her language. To be enthusiastic about our language.
But Alisa, not only our language, but who loves languages in general.
Which we teach, I think. Not every teacher is, is a polyglot or language enthusiast. That's the truth. That's right. Yeah, but if we do teach, even if we know one language and that's the language we teach, still we have to be very enthusiastic about it, I think. Yes? Like for me.
Yeah, that's also true. But I would say that polyglots are also more than welcome as teachers, because they constantly learn and they love languages in general.
Because maybe we know how to learn, and yes, we have the methods like of self-learners which we can pass on to the students, which is also important. And
I remember sometimes. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sure. Come on.
Oh no! I remember just sometimes that I was explaining like a grammar rule to one of my students, and it was actually an interesting grammar rule because we've got a lot of like pronouns that are combined, and that's so beautiful. Like I don't know, I'm sure Susana, you know that like mandaglielo, and like in what word you explain, like you're just saying so many things. And when I was explaining the rule, I was just getting so emotional. It's like, see, my language is so smart, it's so beautiful. Don't you like that? And the student was like, yes, but why are you getting so emotional about that? Well, because I love my language, and I want you to love it too.
Exactly. It's contagious. If we love the language, they will love the language and will keep learning it, because motivation is the key point about the whole process. Yes.
Right.
Yes, and I do love, which is like Russian. I like Russian as well, but Hebrew I love because for many reasons. I can explain it. You don't want me to start on that now. Okay. And talking about the first lessons, we can wrap up the discussion about the good teacher, which is amazing. Thank you guys, and thank you all for coming. It was a great topic, great discussion. Thank you all.
It was. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Goodbye.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a great night. Bye.